Today on Knife Skills, we have a special video for you. Of course, every video is special, but this one is extra special. We're doing the organ takeoutable tier list. Now you might ask yourself, why am I watching a video about the tiers of organs in the way they're able to be taken out? You're here at Knife Skills. And the point of coming to Knife Skills is to get a sense of the mindset of a trauma surgeon. And whenever I deal with a trauma case and there's a patient with an injured organ, the first question I'm asking is, can I safely remove that organ? So let's do the organ removal tier list. Some ground rules first. Let's take a look here. We have the best category, the S tier category, as we would say, is does that organ even do anything? The next category is it does something, but you'll be fine. The third category is you'll miss it, or you have another one of them. That's really important because if you have two organs of one kind, it's pretty easy to take out one of them. Let's be real. That's why you have to. You can lose one, no problem. The fourth one is you'll definitely miss it, but you'll live. And the last one is, God, don't touch this one. Now, there are some additional ground rules here. In order for something to be, God, don't touch this, you really can't remove a significant part of that organ. I think that's really important because some organs, you can remove a big chunk of it and the person will actually be okay. Let's get into it, just totally random here. Let's start off with the stomach, just pulling it out of nowhere here. The stomach. So, and I haven't really thought much about this, but I'm gonna just go with my gut here. It's pretty hard to take out the stomach, in fairness. So I think you'll miss it a little bit. I think removing the stomach, because if you have to remove the entire organ, that is gonna have some consequences on your appetite, your ability to have a normal meal, for example. So you'll definitely miss if we remove the entire organ. Now, if part of the stomach is injured, you have to remove part of it, not a problem, easy. So I think it's a good mid-tier organ. That'll give you kind of a sense of what we're talking about here. The next one, let's talk about the uterus. The uterus. Now I'm gonna put it in, it does something, but you'll be fine. The uterus obviously is very important, but it's only important for women at a real certain stage in their lives, right? Now we're not talking about the ovaries. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the uterus itself here. So don't at me in the comments here. Don't ratio this video. But the uterus really, it has an important role. That role is reproduction. And once that stage of life is over, it's really not that important. So it does something, but to the individual who has to have their uterus removed, they'll be fine. So I like it as a good, does something, but you'll be fine. Let's move to a great organ here, and that's the appendix. Now, obviously, if you're watching this channel, you know the appendix is gonna be in the category, does it even do anything? Again, maybe there's a role, and when it comes to bacteria and immune function of the intestine and the gut, recognize that. That being said, I don't know anyone who's really come to my office that I really wish my appendix wasn't removed. That's never happened in my career. And the reality is that we're not even sure it actually does anything. So I think it's a good category of, does it even do anything? It's probably the most, I would say, typical take-outable organ. It's one of the best choices we have. Okay, let's move on to a surprising one here. And I'm actually gonna put the brain. This is the brain. I'm gonna put the brain as, you'll definitely miss it, but you'll live. Now, I'm not talking about removing the whole brain. Obviously, what's the point? What's the point of living without a whole brain? However, you can remove a lot of the brain. I'm not saying that you'll be happy about it. That's why it's in you'll definitely miss it. You'll wish the brain wasn't removed, but you can remove a lot of the brain, still live. It's remarkable. It's amazing how much of your brain can be removed and you'll survive. So, okay, let's move on to the other one, the kidney. I'm gonna put it again in the category of you might miss it, but you have another. Again, kidney, a life-sustaining organ. You have to have a functional kidney, but you have two of them. And you can remove part of it. So I think it fits right now in that middle category of you might miss it, but you have another. All right, let's look into the large intestine. I think, again, I'm gonna put it in, you might miss it. Now, you don't have two of them, in fairness, but we can remove the entire colon. You'll miss it. You'll wish maybe you had kept your colon, or you wish you didn't have a disease that made us take your colon, but you will be fine. There's lots of people who've had total colectomies who live pretty normal lives with an ostomy. Okay, the spleen. Ooh, this is a good one. Where should we put that? Does it even do anything? Or it does something, but you'll be fine. It's a tough call. It's a tough call. Well, it definitely does something. The spleen is really important for dealing with old blood cells and cleaning the blood that way. Of course, the liver does it as well. And so the reality is, I think the spleen, you definitely can remove it and you'll be totally fine, but it does do something. I think it deserves a little bit of credit. We're gonna put it in that category of does something, but you'll be fine. The testes here. You know what? Now you might be thinking, well, we have 2 of them. So you might miss it, but you have another, but you know what? I'm gonna put it in does something and you'll be fine. And here's the reason. Obviously you can remove one. And the question is, what's the effect of removing one testy? Well, or testicle if you wanna call it. Well, the reality is that one testy being removed, fine. Your brain, your body will easily compensate for removing one testy, no problem at all. Removing 2, you might miss it. In fairness, your reproductive ability would definitely decrease, but we can supplement that with hormones. So the testes is a good example of, it does something, but you'll be fine. I think it deserves a little bit more, let's just say, credit for being an organ that we can easily remove. Let's move on. For some reason, I got 2 testes here. Let's move on to, the spinal cord. What are we gonna do with that? I'm gonna put it in God don't touch this. I'm giving it a higher credit than the brain. Now, in fairness, you might be saying, well, are you gonna be able to live with part of your spinal cord removed? It's true, that's true. So maybe in fairness, I should put it in, you'll miss it, but you'll live, in fairness. Because we're gonna remove a good chunk of the spinal cord, definitely you'll have effects. The paralysis is 100%. Even a little bit of the spinal cord being removed, you'll be affected. In some ways, it deserves almost more credit, I think, than the brain as being a hard to remove organ. You might actually even put the brain as you'll miss it. But so the spinal cord, if I could kind of put a category between the 2 here, but I gotta decide, that's how tiered lists work. I'm gonna put it, you'll definitely miss it, but you'll live. All right, let's move on to the gallbladder. Ooh, the gallbladder. Again, it's such an easy to remove organ. What are we gonna do with it? I gotta give it some credit though. The gallbladder does do something. Even though I've removed hundreds, like maybe 1,000 gallbladders in my career at this point, it does do something. I have to give it credit. A normal gallbladder should be left alone. It's just when those abnormal gallbladders make those stones, that's when you should remove it. So I gotta give it some credit. It's easy to remove, you'll be fine, but it does definitely do something. Next, let's put the eyeball. The eyeball, again, it's not a hard organ to remove at all, but you'll miss it. You have another one, but you'll wish you had 2 of them. So let's put the eyeball there. Okay, next question here. Let's talk about the pancreas. Ooh, pancreas is a tough one. That's a tough one. I'm gonna put the pancreas here as you'll definitely miss it. The pancreas does a lot of different functions. First of all, it's tricky to remove. Let's just get out there. The operation to remove a pancreas is one of the most complex surgeries that can be done. The reason why is the pancreas is connected to the liver and it's connected to the intestine and it has its own endocrine function. And so removing the pancreas usually involves removing part of the duodenum, reconnecting the liver. It's a whole complicated operation, super difficult. And you'll definitely miss it. You'll wish you had kept it. So I think it deserves a similar category. It should be similar to the spinal cord, similar to the brain in that way. Okay, let's go to the small intestine. Again, you don't want to remove all of it. So I feel like in order for it to be does something and you'll be fine, you need to be able to remove the entire organ without any consequence. And that's not really the case with the small bowel. You can remove a lot of it for sure, most of it in fact, and you'll be fine. So I'm gonna put it, you might miss it, but you have another, just because that category of being able to remove part of it, but not all of it, I think it fits in that middle category. That's where we're at there. All right, the liver. The liver, again, it's a tough organ. You can definitely remove a lot of the liver and you'll be okay. So I'm gonna put it again in, you might miss it, but you have another. That's where you can really remove a huge chunk of the organ and the residual is gonna do a good job, right? That same thing as removing an eye, the residual eye helps you. Removing the kidney, the residual kidney helps you. That's the concept here. And so the liver's hard to remove. Definitely trauma of the liver can be devastating depending on the type of liver trauma it is. So I think it's a good place for it. Okay. It looks like there's 3 organs down there, but that's because I made a mistake. There's actually only 2. We have the lungs and the heart. Which one? These are important organs, for sure. I would say you can't remove the entirety of the lungs, both lungs, but you have another, in fairness. Now, I'm actually gonna give it, you'll definitely miss it. And you might be saying, Dr. Hilson, wait, we have 2 lungs. You can just remove one and you get this whole other lung to like breathe. It'll be totally fine. But that's not quite the case. Removing one lung is so difficult and so dangerous that you really just can't remove one lung. I mean, you can if there's a lot of cancer and but it's very complex. It's one of the highest risk surgeries that you could do is to have an entire lung removed. So rather than remove one lung and say you might miss it and you have another, I'm gonna say you're gonna definitely miss a whole lung being removed. You can remove part of it for sure, but I think you're gonna miss it if you remove a big chunk. So that's why we're putting it there. Come at me in the comments. If you think the lung should be higher as it's more removable, I get it. I understand what you're talking about. So we're now at the big one. I haven't put anything in God Don't Touch This, and I'll tell you why. Because I can put the heart in there. Here's the bottom line. I'm a trauma surgeon, general surgeon. No other surgeons annoy me more than cardiac surgeons. Trust me. They think they're hot shots, big deals, blah, blah, blah. But I gotta give them credit. The bottom line is, you really can't remove, if you remove any part of the heart, you gotta replace it. You gotta put that valve back in. You've gotta fix that hole or you're not gonna survive. It's one of the more untouchable organs, even though so much heart surgery and so fantastic what we can do to the heart as far as heart surgery is concerned. If you remove that organ, you gotta put it right back in. You gotta transplant it. You could transplant the liver, you could transplant the kidney, there's so many things, but the bottom line is that heart, if there's a hole in that heart, if there's a damage to that heart, you can't just remove it. You can't just cut out that part of the heart. So I'm gonna put it in the category of God, don't touch this. So you may not have realized that you really wanted to know what the criteria was for removing organs, but you came. So I wanna thank you for watching. I appreciate every single comment, like, and subscribe. If you think that my tier list is off and you think that there's an organ that should be higher or lower on this tier list, I would love to see your comments. Thanks for watching. Until next time, have a great day.